How's it going, everybody? This podcast is brought to you by RYYZN Make Life Workout, a health, self-development, and lifestyle platform building a passionate community of knowledge seekers, creative dreamers, and future leaders.
For details on the latest RYYZN event that will feature expert speakers in the field of self-development and growth, check out www.ryz-workout.com.
That's www.ryz-workout.com. Enjoy the show. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the High Frequency Club podcast. My name is Marwin Celerio.
And I'm Sinead Bierman. We're here talking all things self-development, growth, and mindset.
In this week's episode, we have ICC leadership coach, Lesmos Britomart, group fitness manager, and one of the speakers to the August 13 Rise Talk, Mr. Dave Kyle.
Super insightful chat today with Dave. We dive deep sort of how he got into the fitness world and coaching, what his biggest learnings have been over those years, what he feels people probably miss the most in regards to setting goals and achieving their goals.
He shares valuable processes on managing your expectations and where to start if you really want to show up as the best version of yourself.
Yeah. Definitely a lot around the fitness space as well, as to how it has changed over the years, but what it's probably still missing. And yeah, definitely managing stress in these stressful times. So yeah,
I really enjoyed what he talked about, what creates sustainable change. Because a lot of people come into the gym with a negative pain point and instead trying to shift that as a coach to a positive pain point, positive point. Yeah. Because when it's positive, you're more likely to keep doing it again. It's more purposeful and more meaningful. And that means you show up because you want to rather than because you have to.
Yeah, lots of takeouts. I think it's going to be probably something you'll need to listen to 2 or 3 times maybe to let it all absorb and sink in. So once you have done that, let us know your thoughts at the High Frequency Club on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and Instagram.
Enjoy the show. Mr. Dave Kyle, thanks for coming on and giving us some of your time and wisdom.
All good.
This is actually quite a special episode for us because when you first became our GFM, when we were strategizing what our podcast wanted to look like in August 2020, you were on top of our list, and we were like, we need a process to build leverage and build brand awareness for him to want to come to this. So we put that in our strategy last year in August, and today it has finally manifested physically. So we're real thankful that you're here.
Humbled, man. Humbled, to be thought of that way. That's amazing.
Awesome. So did you want to introduce yourself, tell people who you are, what you do? Give us the whole rundown.
So I guess, I'm Dave Kyle. I'm a coach. I guess that's what I do. Not a physical coach, more of a mental coach. So I'm a leadership coach. And I work with people and teams. The best way to describe that is just empowering people and teams to operate at their maximum performance. So how do you operate at your best? And a good way to talk about that is, because we've all had that day, right? If you all woke up in the morning and you've just had a day where you've came back at night and thought, yeah, that was amazing. Today, everything just seemed to happen and just seemed to go right, and that was the best day ever. Now, I'm a believer in that. And the reason I'm in this coaching space is that wasn't just by chance day. That's actually the day when you showed up as your best self. So what I try and work with people and teams is, how do you find that? How do you, what happened on that day? I.e., what is it you're actually doing mentally to get you in that space where you feel like you're having your best day? Because then you can do it intentionally. I.e., you can choose when you show up to have a best day. And if we all do that as people and teams, then you get most out of it, rather than just kind of bumbling in and out of it. So that's kind of what I do. I help people and teams find that best day every day, so you're intentionally showing up in life. It's pretty cool.
And for those that probably know you from the group fit space, I'm sure they're probably keen to know how you got into the group fitness world and what was your first group fitness experience like?
There's a journey, man, right? It's a journey. It's it takes me way back to Scotland. And what was the woman's name again? I'm crying, she'll kill me if I forget her name. And I've forgotten it. It just went straight out. And that was you, Sinead. I didn't forget her name. But it was way back. I got into the fitness industry way back in like 1945 or something. And I got in as I guess it's just a PT, right? So I just started as gym floor PT type thing. And it was my little fitness manager at the time saw me and says, oh, listen, you'd be great, and here, come and have a look at this stuff, because I think you'd be great at this. And she took me round to the studio, and we had a look through the door, and body pump was on, and there was someone taking body pump. She goes, I think you'd be good at this, and it'll help your PT, and it'll help this, and whatever. And I was like, okay, I'll give that a go, it looks interesting. And I jumped into body pump training. So that was my first experience of Les Mills. I knew nothing about Les Mills, or, to be honest, the group fitness space. I was a rugby guy and a weightlifter and all the other things that you get into in your younger days, in PT, and I was into that sort of space. But group fitness just wasn't a thing. And it was my little fitness manager. She was like, do this. But I feel that's probably like all of us, right? I don't know. Or definitely my experience around the world is working with instructors and people. Most people actually have a story to tell how they got into that space, and it's normally someone else who's either inspired them or guided them or tapped them on the shoulder. And that's really where we get into that sort of space.
So it sounds like from
Helen Flanagan.
There we go. Helen Flanagan. He named you, didn't forget you. He still loves you. So it sounds like from a very early point in your professional career, you've always worked and served people and brought the best out of people, whether it's been the GFM, your own leadership coaching, or being a personal trainer. At what point did you figure out that was like, your gift? How did you know that you're like, oh,
I'm good at this.
I'm really good at this. I'm going to double down on it, because it's been many years. You've been in this space for many years now.
Absolutely, mate. And I think that's the key as well. That's probably one of the keys that made me do coaching more intentionally into this space, is because I realised that myself. I've been doing it for so long. And even before the fitness industry, I was in the Air Force and stuff. But when I look back and think of my life now, when I look back and think, okay, what was it I was doing? And what made me good at what I do was that. It was the coaching, effectively. It was working with people. But I wasn't intentional about it. I didn't know.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what made me think, okay, well, I can help people in this space, because I wish, not that I would have any regrets in life, because I don't think you do. I think your life shapes who you are anyway, right? But if someone had caught me back, man, I was 2021, and says, right, you need to be a coach, then, who knows, life would have been different right now, right? But, I mean, life happens for a reason. No regrets. But I wanted to then step in that space and say, well, how can I maybe do that? How can I show up in people's lives that helps them fast track their way to that space rather than finding your way? Because again, I'm a believer that you'll do it anyway. You'll probably find your space through time, and you will find your way to where you need to be, but you won't do it intentionally. And for me, that was it. So the intentional piece, mate, back to your question, was probably about, maybe 5-10 years ago.
Yeah.
When I really thought, this is what I'm good at, this is what I do. And that helped me then really hone in on my skills to help then pull my skills into the different roles and tasks that I decided to do.
Yeah. What was the experience like once you figured out what your gift was? Did you just feel lots of opportunities started to open up?
Absolutely. And I think then you look to, because people, like you said, people will know you from the tasks I did or the jobs I did. That's just stuff I chose to do. And that's the difference, I guess, in that mindset piece. Once I knew what I was good at and what I was wanting to do in life, then I pitched myself against the tasks and the roles that I wanted to do. Yeah. Rather than the other way around.
That aligns with the gift.
We can maybe talk about that as well, because that's, again, key thing about coaching is, for us all, is jobs and tasks and roles don't define you.
Yeah.
You just choose to do it or not. That choice is ours, right? But we don't always look at that, because society's not brought us up that way. Society's kind of brought us up as in, you have to do. And it takes away that, I guess, that self-direction, that really showing up as your best self, because you think you have to be doing something. Yeah. Where actually all you have to be doing is just being the best version of you. Yeah. And then choose to do where you want to do it.
Yeah, and by being detached away from those tasks and jobs, you're open enough to be able to adapt to whatever life throws you as well, right? Because you're just focused on your gift. But how would you explain what a gift is to people? Because some people might hear this and be like, what does that mean? How do I find my gift? What is the measure of success of a gift?
Well, it's a great question. I've not got the answer, and that's why I love it. And a coach won't have the answer, because a coach is not going to give you the answer. And I guess you guys will know this. We're working, even the short time I've been working with you, is I'm not going to give you the answer, because I don't hold the answer. The key is you hold it. You just don't know it, or you're not focused on it. You're not being intentional about it. So as a coach, I do believe that we all have that gift. Like that's inbuilt. I think you've heard me saying, you have everything in your world that your world needs. It's just whether you choose to use it or not, or see it or not. So as a coach, what you're And the bit I love about it is you help to shine a light into those areas that you're maybe not looking at as a person, because either being the way you've been brought up, or the way society shaped you, or the way your values and actually beliefs, that can be good or bad, because beliefs can hold us back as well as be powerful.
Yes.
But it does shape us, and sometimes when we're on this journey, and we're on our own journey, we get caught in this comfort zone or rut, and we don't see the magic. So sometimes it takes a coach to jump in and just have a few honest conversations, and then maybe shine a light into that space where you've not looked at in a long time.
Yeah, I like what you say about, the comfort zone, because the comfort zone for a lot of people is someone giving them the answers. Yeah. I remember you made a post recently on Instagram and said a coach doesn't have the answers, they just hold the light to the path that you want to go to. And that can frustrate a lot of people, you know, because sometimes they hire you, pay premium dollar to get the answer, but really what you're really doing is just taking them through the journey of what their journey might look like.
That's the downside of society right now, right? Because the society, we're all looking for the answer. You guys will know as well in the fitness industry, especially as a PT. Someone comes to you, they want to be fit and lean and the best version of themselves next week, or actually preferably the last week if I can. Right, so they're all focused on this. I want it now. And it's always searching for the answer and someone else to do it for you. And it's like, well, actually, and even in that space, they hold their own key to their own success. It's what you do. You're a coach, effectively, right? You're just guiding someone into that space that you're taking them to that journey, and you're taking them there, fast tracking them. But I guess you're doing it in that fitness side of things. But actually, you're probably yourself. I know how you work with your clients, and there's mental stuff going on in there as well. So you're working with them mentally as well as physically.
Absolutely. I think the mental mindset part of it is the most sustainable part of it and the most fulfilling part of it. Only because I come from a background of bodybuilding where I achieved the body I wanted, but still felt shit about myself because I never worked on in here, what was in between my ears, you know. I only worked on the physical, and really I was just, for me anyway, highlighting my insecurities and just putting it out there to the world instead of actually getting to the root problem.
Do you find that's probably, like, in all your years of coaching, that's probably the biggest missing piece of the puzzle for a lot of people, is not sort of having that, not realising that they've got what they need and that clarity on their vision? And
absolutely. But if you think about, I don't want to generalise everybody, but if I can put it out there, and I guess everybody's individual, so you can draw on your own experiences or not. But when you're brought up through family, they pass on their values or beliefs. You learn how to show up in society. Then you go through school, you're passed on these values and beliefs, and it might be further education or what it might be. And all along, you're never really taught to do what you want to do or find your best self, right? You're told this is what you should be showing up, this is how you show up in society, and this is how you should be doing, this is the type of job you should be looking for, and you have to go to university, and you have to go through here. It's all these sort of check marks. So it's no surprise then that when we get into adulthood, the young adults, that we're a bit lost. Because we've always been told. So, and then fast forward that now until, as I say, your 20s and your 30s and your 40s. And like you said, no wonder we're looking for answers. Because all through our lives, what have we been done? People have just been giving us the answers to what they think. And here's the thing, it's what they think is right for us. But actually we never get that space or freedom space to find our own way. Imagine that conversation with mum or dad or parents or teachers to say, actually, just do what you want to do. Be who you want to be.
What would your practical step to help? Because I have peers in that space as well who they understand that they're not feeling fulfilled. They're sad. But what's your practical step to help them even just get on the right path of how do I create my own expectations on myself? How do I break that into generational expectations and trauma and all that conditioning that's been wired into me? What's the first step?
First step is contacting Dave as a coach. The first step is you need a coach. You need somebody else in your life. You can't do this on your own. None of us. And I'm a great believer in, like, everybody needs, I've got a coach. We've all got coaches and stuff. And the coach doesn't mean, as I say, doesn't have to be that, I guess, that professional side of things, although it does help because it's nice to have someone outside of that environment that you're in, so you're getting someone else looking with different glasses, I guess, a different viewpoint into your life, and that's where the magic of the coaching happens. But everybody needs somebody, so the key there is who are you surrounding yourself with. Who's your circle of influence, who's around that circle, who's your friends in that space, because that will determine your thoughts and your actions and actually where you're going in society. If you have a look to find out of what Marwan's life is like, I wouldn't have to look much further than who you surround yourself with, right? Because I'm going to get a picture of who you are and how you show up. And it's vice versa. So choose who you show up and who you're with. Yeah. Because that will help determine kind of where you go in life and what your outlook is.
So if someone's looking for a coach, because now in the age of social media, you know, this is the age of information. Everyone's a coach apparently now.
Absolutely.
How do you know what's a good coach? Well, actually, I should say, what's an effective coach and what's an ineffective coach for that person?
I think it's like everything in life. And this goes to everything we do in the fitness industry. How do you choose a PT? How do you choose a good group fitness class? Is connections, relationships. So who do you connect with? And I wouldn't just look for a coach and then go and pay the money and jump in there. And I guess as coaches, that's why we always offer these one-to-ones. I would never take a client on board anyway up front and say, right, here you go, sign the contract and let's get coaching. I want to know you as well. And let's see if I've got a connection first, because that's huge. You've got to have a connection. Yeah. And you will find the right coach for you will be someone who's almost kindred spirit, I would call it. So there'll be a connection when you have the eye contact, you have the chats. There'll be something that you come away thinking, well, okay, I like this person. There's something about it that feels good. Yeah. Because you have to have trust in that environment as a coach. And if you've not got that trust, then it's not going to work. And that just comes from relationships, connections, etc. So I wouldn't even look at success, because what's right for one person might not be right for another person, right? So just going by who's the best coach in the world might not be the coach for you, because it just might not fit. It might not be who you are. Yeah,
I find a lot of people think, I don't want to hire a coach yet because I don't know what I want. I don't know what to expect. But it sounds like from what you're saying, well, if you connect with them first and trust them first, then you can go on that journey and figure out what your goal is.
Yeah, and that's goals is actually hugely important, because that's one thing I would say is missing from most people. So what stops you doing it? Or if you need a coach, I'd be saying that, well, are you achieving your goals? You know, 90% of society will be like, actually 90% will say, well, what goals? Because we don't have goals. We don't actually set out to have goals. And then when we do, I would challenge most people to whether those are real true goals, i.e. is it something that you really want to do? Is it impactful in your life? Or again, is it something you think you should be doing because someone else told you, and this is where you think as a society is pushing you towards this place, so I need to be doing this. We've talked about it, right? The best way to sit down and work out a goal is the magic wand, right? It's the magic wand, 5 years, 10 years ahead. Absolutely no restrictions, nothing in life. We could take away everything in life that you could put up as a barrier. What would you be doing with your life? And what would make you super happy, super purposeful, and meaning in your life? What would that be? And when you remove those barriers and go, you know what, it would be this. There's your goal. And then step back and look at it and think, well, actually, how close or how far away are you from that? And a lot of the times, what we'll find is we're not even in the right industry. A lot of people will say, actually, why am I doing what I'm doing? Because I'm off in this direction if this is what I'm all about. So having those real goals in life that are about life-based and about being you and bringing purpose and value and meaning to your life is the real goals. Yeah.
Would you say, like, for people who've never really set goals or they just don't know what they want, I like to say that, look, it's a process of elimination then. If you don't know what you want, just write down the things that you're curious about and just cross them off the list, because the worst that can happen is that you just go on to the next one and you end up finding what you really want to do, which is also the best thing that could happen. You know, would you agree?
Absolutely. Because that question would be easy, right? Well, just what do you love doing? And it might not even be, I'm not asking what do you love working or what job do you love, it's just what do you love doing? And it might be like, because I love my photography and I love my music, my guitar and stuff, so I love doing these other things about it. So if that's what you love doing, to take that as an example as myself, then there's a million ways I can do that. Yeah, I don't have to be a photographer to be a photographer.
Yes,
I could work as, we've had this conversation, I could work as a barista around the corner here in the little French cafe, right? But in my time outside of that, I could be away taking photographs and doing what I do. So that little barista job funds me or allows me to then do what I want to do. So it's not always in life that you have to have this all-seeing, I have to do this and I've got to be there and I've got to, especially at a certain age, by 20 I've got to be doing this, 25 this, 20. Come away from that checkbox and actually look at yourself and what really drives you, what gets you excited about in life, and where's that purpose and meaning coming from, and your values, etc., and really work on that and then do it. or do something that allows you to do it.
That's the difference between the gift and, like, for example, a job, isn't it? Because when people say, oh, what are you really good at? What do you love? It's like, well, I'm a financial advisor. It's like, no, it's what makes you good at being a financial advisor is your gift.
Exactly.
Right? It's the financial advisor is a cup and your gift is the water.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you bring the magic. Absolutely. You're bringing the magic to whatever job or task it is you do. And you bring more of that magic when it's aligned more with your natural, authentic self, who you really are. You will excel. And we see it in our space. We see it with the group fitness instructors. I mean, crikey, let's talk about that. Right? You know, why 95% of group fitness instructors around the world are doing it because they just love teaching and doing this. It's not their real gig. In fact, I don't know anybody that's a real gig, right? You need to be pretty hard at it to be making a living out of being a group fitness instructor. So there's a question right there. So why do you do what you do? Because it's the same thing. You're doing that because it's driving, if you've not thought about it intentionally, if you sit and think about it, it'll be one of those things because I'm giving back, it helps me in the community, I do it, it makes me feel good. That's what we're talking about. It's, you're getting closer to yourself and your authentic self. And that's why you choose to do the group fitness instructor. Now, the cool thing about that is a lot of people don't think that way and don't realise that's why they become a group fitness instructor. And when that gets threatened or taken away, so injury or life, age, whatever it might be, when you kind of get lost a little bit and you can start beating your head against a brick wall and getting a bit pressurised, thinking I can't do this anymore. But actually that's not, you just chose to do that thing because it allows you to get in front of people and make a difference. But actually what's driving you to do it, you could still do that in 1,000 other ways. So it's identifying those innate real skills and talents that we're born with.
Yeah, would you say, I have these yarns with my clients, like when I talk about what they're really good at, I always ask, is it nature or is it nurture? Were you born with it? Or, you know, how much of it is balanced? Because some of my clients also have kids and one kid's like a super ambitious, blah, go for it. And the other one's much more reserved and quiet and shy. So I'm like, how is it? Is it DNA or is it nature, nurture? What do you think?
Both, I think, yeah. But the key there is you develop what their natural talents are. So if you go back to those two examples, if you've got one who's super driven, then you don't quell that. You help, you push that, and you think, yeah, this is you. You're super driven. This is how you show up in life. And if the other one's a little bit quiet, that's their talent.
Yes.
So you nurture that as well. You don't then go, hey, you need to be more of you, and then you need to be more of them, right? You can't do that. You find out who you are, and then that's your superpower. You drive into that space, and you think, okay, this is me. Yeah. And then the more you nurture that, the more you develop that, then the better you're going to show up in life. As I say, that's where that empowering your natural talents is coming through, rather than trying to learn other talents. And this is a big thing. Actually, I'm a Gallup strength coach as well, and that's a big thing at Gallup's big on is the strength. So they focus on putting time and energy into what your strengths, your talent, or your real talents, what you're good at, and not something you're not good at. Because I think it's something, I can't remember, it's something like 80%. You can, the amount of time and energy you spend in that space, you can increase your output or your development, your skill acquisition way higher than you can focus on something you're not good at.
You just, once you really know what you're good at, double down on that.
Yeah, because that's where you get biggest results.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Lots of takeouts. I had a question about I guess all the years you've worked in the fitness space, what's something that you've seen, or a shift in the fitness space that you think's been quite a positive one, and where do you think there's still sort of room for improvement within the
I think the fitness industry's, I don't know, it's like a double-headed beast to me, I think, and I've seen this over the years. It's the good thing about it is if we need to help people become more aware of their overall fitness, right? And I think nowadays people are. And actually, you see it in different countries. Actually, I've been privileged, I guess, and humbled to travel the world and worked with so many people, that you can see that in different countries have different aspects around fitness and health. But the good thing is more people are aware that they should be doing something. So that's the good thing about the fitness industry is we should be doing something. Yeah. The downside for me is we've still not got it right after all these years. I still do feel, and this is just my thoughts and feelings. This is not to go out to the industry, so don't be getting on the high horse and stuff. This is my thoughts and feelings.
They'll be knocking on his door.
Yeah, the focus is wrong. The focus is on aesthetics. It's on look, and it's always been focused on look. So when we sit back in 2021 and look back at the last 100 years of fitness and wonder why we've not had that impact, or really why we're still struggling to retain members and clients and gyms and et cetera, is because we keep focusing on the wrong thing. We keep focusing on look. And actually, you said it about 50 minutes ago, mate. You were like, I did bodybuilding, right? If I can use that as an example.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
Who ultimately, if you think about bodybuilder, right, as in that aesthetic look, everybody nowadays is like, I'd love to look like that. But when you end up looking like that, what you said didn't fulfill me. I still felt the same.
Yeah.
Because that wasn't it.
No,
it's the head.
Yeah.
So therein is my answer. So as a fitness industry, we should be absolutely focused on changing people's shape of their mind, not the shape of their body. So as an industry, we started focusing on mind health, well-being as in full life well-being. Then everything else will fall into place. Aesthetics will happen, shape will change, because it's just, we all know it's consistency, it's what you do, it's that, it's not that short burst of exercise, but it's a long-term exercise effect, etc. And what keeps people coming back for more, what has that stickiness to it, is the mental side. I've got to love what I'm doing, and I've got to be doing it for the right reasons. And actually that's, I think, where the fitness industry's fell down over the past, whatever, up to this point. I'm seeing more of it now. You're starting to see that filter into the messaging and the marketing around the world. But it's still not there yet. It's still not good enough, because you look at the media that we send out, we look at the marketing that goes up, it's still the best of looking and the bodybuilders and the certain type that we're pushing.
Yeah.
Whereas that's not the world, man. It's not the world we live in. The amount of people in the world just don't look like that, and actually shouldn't be driven by trying to look like someone else. We're back to this, how do you become the best version of yourself? And if I use a wee example as a PT, back in the days, 100 years ago or something, when I was doing PT, we're talking about aesthetics. I used to get someone in, and you get so many people coming in saying they wanted to look like this person, or they'd have this image of them, someone else. And I'm like, well, okay, how are you ever going to do that? Because you're not that person.
Yeah.
But what we can do is be the best version of you, but that starts here. Yeah. And not in the physical space. So I think the fitness industry going forward has to change the way it thinks and acts by focusing on that of the body shape, etc.
So where do we start? What questions do we ask ourselves then to start shifting that focus from, because you know, as soon as someone sits on the consultation table, I want to lose 5 kgs and I want to get lean, I want to get a big butt, I want to get big arms, that is always, I think that's just the default for a lot of people. That's the metric of success. Like, it must be that. If I want to be healthy, it must be this. You know what I mean? Because it's hard to, when really what they're asking for is, I want to be more confident. I want to be more happy. That's what they're,
absolutely.
So what are the questions? What's the questions that we should be asking instead of?
Well, in the fitness industry, so if someone walks through the door, and we're trying to work with the teams here, the MCs and stuff, and the reception teams, and as well as the GFIs and PTs and stuff, is how do you then have that honest conversation with someone? Because we've done presentations about this, right? We know, absolutely know through research, that people walk into a gym with poor motivation. It's a negative motivation, right? It's fear, force, guilt, pressure. It's an ultimate. It's something driving them through the door. It's not a positive motivation. The trouble is with negative motivation is it's unsustainable. It'll wear off really quickly. They'll come into the gym, they'll jump on the treadmill, they'll do 2 or 3 things. It's a negative motivation. They won't get there quick enough. They won't enjoy what they do. They'll leave again. And then they're on this hamster wheel of just failure. And then that's that negative talk to self, etc. So you end up getting deeper and deeper into this pressure, fear, force, guilt, and ultimatum. So if we know that as a fitness industry, then change that. So when someone comes in and sits down, you've got to get underneath that, the negative motivation. So how do you find the positive motivators in anyone's life? So what is it you talk about when you sit in that first consultation? How do you get onto the real underlying issues, like you just called it there, right? So if someone comes in and wants to lose 5 kg, why do they really want to use 5 kg? Yeah. Where's that pressure coming from? Because it's a pressure. Otherwise, if it wasn't, they would be doing it, right? If it wasn't something they couldn't achieve, or if something they were driven to do and it was just making them happy, then they'd already be there. The fact that it's not, there's something else driving that. Is it doctors? Is it you need to go and lose weight because there's high blood pressure, whatever it might be? Is it a health risk? Is it friends and society thing? Is it just the images I'm now seeing? Is it where my social media feeds are saying that I should look like? So what is this is driving that negative motivation? Identify that, and then get them looking into this positive space. So what's the positive motivation around it? How can you change it to a better life? Yes. And not just a better look.
Yeah, that makes sense in my mind. I'm compartmentalizing it as you talk. So asking when someone comes to the table and says, "This is my goal," let's say it's 5 kgs, you ask what's driven that goal for you to come here, and it might be social media, blah 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 blah, and then once you've identified that, then asking them, what do you actually really want? Like what does you coming to this table actually represent? Yeah, gotcha.
Because that's your long term, and that's as PTs or as people in the fitness industry, we know again, lectures and stuff, we need to get people in here twice a week minimum in order to keep them. Anything less than that, they're going to leave again. And that's research that's been around a long time, and that's why I'm saying the fitness industry hasn't changed, because we still have those same troubles as we've had 10 years ago. They're still there. People are just not coming into this space. So we need to do something different. And to me, that's it. Right? How do you get someone coming in more? And they're coming more because they want to, not because they need to.
Yes. Yeah,
so how do you get underneath that? I need to be here because, well, I want you to be here, and I want you to want to be here. Because when you change that, you'll see it. You'll see it in the group fitness classes. When someone comes in and really starts to fall in love with just being in the group and doing what they do,
and the movement,
and the music and the instructor and who they're with, the community that you're creating.
Yes.
They'll be in 2-3 times a week. They'll be loving what they're doing. They'll never take time off. When they do take time off, they'll need to find another gym that does your class so they can go and do it. So they're changing their lifestyles. That's a mindset piece. That's not. They very quickly lose from the aesthetic to the mental.
Yeah. Once you start focusing on lifestyle rather than the aesthetic, you start to see this interconnectedness between the holistic health.
They feel better, right?
Yeah.
And it's the feel. I feel better. My life's better. I'm not chasing this look anymore, because actually my life's really cool and I'm enjoying what I'm doing and I'm loving life. And once you get into that space, then you kind of lose that. I hate to say it, that sort of bullshit thought process on look. I should look like this. Why? Because everyone else looks like this, and this is what I should look like. It's like nonsense.
Yeah.
You don't need to.
And like you said, a negative motivator is just not sustainable, because if you're coming to group fit or the gym thinking, oh, I need to lose 5 kilos, and then like you said, after 1 week you're like, oh, I'm still the same. That's when you
summed that really nice for us. You were there. You were the epitome of as those industry standards and I guess negative motivators go, that's the best look, right? The best look is I'm ripped and I'm muscular and I'm strong and I'm blah, blah, blah. But in here, I'm just, life wasn't great.
Yeah, exactly. Because I thought that once I got my 6-pack, that I'd be confident, and I wasn't confident. And then I realized that the process of living like a bodybuilder was not worth that, at all. All that work
and
for
actually,
what?
it's probably doing the complete opposite, right? It's kind of dragging you back down that rabbit hole. You're probably getting bored.
Yeah. I felt like I was just doing so much work for nothing. Because I didn't get what I wanted, which was to be more confident and be happy in myself.
So I was like,
fuck, what's the point in all that?
I think it's a great story, and everybody should hear that. Because
learning curve.
Chasing something, it's just not. It's just aesthetics is never a thing to chase.
Yeah. You do end up going, now like I'm visualizing it. I was just in a rabbit hole of just going in circles. Or what if I eat less? What if I work out more? And it just didn't change. So yeah.
I used to have a good laugh back in the day when I did a lot of lifting and stuff, and I played rugby. So I was actually, what drove me back to training and exercise myself personally was I loved lifting, powerlifting, and I loved rugby. I loved sports. So that's what drove me. I did these things because I loved doing. The outcome was I need to play on a Saturday, I need to go to training, and I want to be the best in the park, whatever it might be, right? And I used to get that a lot. So people would be, oh, but you look the way you look, so therefore you must be driven for a certain look, and you must be because you're whatever, right? You look lean, you look strong, whatever it might be, so you must be training for that. And my comeback was always the opposite. It was always, man, I know I've never tried to look that way because of wanting to look. I do this training because I'm over here playing on a Saturday and I don't want wiped out at a ruck, or I want to be able to push in the scrum, and this is my training for that. So the look is an outcome of the real goal, and not the other way around. And even now, if I look back through, crying out loud, the world at the moment, with COVID and stuff, this last 12 to 18 months, through my personal life, and the little guy coming along, Brody and Jess, and having to relocate, coming back to New Zealand here to settle in as a family. And then you've got jobs, you've got COVID, you've got so much chaos. That's just stopped training. Because for a start, there was nowhere to train. So I've not trained for like 12 to 18 months, as I would in my books of what training looks like. And no matter how much Luke was never going to do that, otherwise it would have done it. So that all these negative motivators, and that's someone, you can all relate to that, right? But and you guys as well. For someone who's trained all their life, literally all their lives, to then just stop and not be motivated to do anything. There's something powerful there. It's nothing to do with look or aesthetics. You see, it's too shallow to make me do it. Otherwise, I'd be doing it. So to me, it's a way deeper than that. And that's going back to, okay, well, why am I not wanting to do this? And it's mindset again. It's going back to, okay, well, where's my mind at? Where's my life at? What's going on here? Because if this isn't right, that's the reason why this is not happening. It's not the look. Who cares?
Yeah. Yeah, I've actually started seeing you, training on the gym floor, coming into the classes now. How's that process been like for you, starting to transition back into training?
That's been rough. That's what I'm saying. It's been super rough because of the mindset, right? Because that's, as I say, COVID's hit us all in one form or another. And Jess and I were in the US, and it was just rough over there. It was a tough time. Millions of people just going through a really, really hard time. We didn't want, when we came over here, it was almost like a relief, but we didn't want to demean anyone's hardship that have come through over here. But when we came back, we were like, guys, because we heard around the dinner table and stuff, it was like, you were what? You don't know what lockdown is.
Yeah.
I remember at the Christmas party, you were like, you guys don't know what lockdown is. You're like, I can't believe I'm not having to sanitize my hands as I shake all your hands.
That's not demeaning anybody's experience of it, because I think anybody, even if it's just for a week, if you're taking out society for a week and locked down, that's rough to go through.
There's adversity in there.
But if you can take that and then multiply it by 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months, 12 months, and it's still going on, right? So if that becomes a serious issue and as a mind health issue. And then add on top of that family, because it's not just me looking after me. I've now got Jess, and I've got the little guy as well, and you're trying to carve out this new goals in life and stuff, but it can be such a struggle. So
it's important to manage your expectations.
Absolutely.
I remember coming back from lockdown, and a lot of my clients were upset because they're like, well, we've been in lockdown for 8 weeks. I'm not as fit as I used to be, and I was like, of course, man, our external circumstances have just flipped upside down. So at the same time, we've got to manage our expectations. You're not going to be the same person as you were 8 weeks ago.
No, and that doesn't, and nor should you be.
And
that's the key to all this that we're talking about. As a coach, you shouldn't be, because you're right now, you're the best version of who you can be if you choose to be so. That person that was back then is just that person back then. You already know more than that person. You're already steps ahead. But don't get dragged back into this space. Now I have to do it as well. Like so even this week, so going back to setting up, so my focus, short-term focus was, okay, well, let's get back into doing stuff. So it was to get back into the classes. So I've tried to get into 4 days of just coming in and doing stuff. And at the same time, my excuse on doing that was it wasn't just from me. And this is the purpose and the meaning behind it. Because if it was just from me to look better, I've already found out it's not a powerful motivator, right? So I wouldn't do it. So my excuse now is when I'm coming in here to these classes is because I'm watching what's going on. I'm seeing the instructor, I'm seeing the engagement, I'm seeing the members. So there's now a different motivator to get me in. But I know by coming in, I'm going to get fit. So the key there was just getting 4 times a week consistently for 3 months, which I've done. So the next shift now is, okay, now let's start lifting again, because that's a bit harder now.
Because it's just you.
For me.
That is for you.
So I couldn't even get in that space, because for me, there had to be something different. So I've been back in lifting this week, but then it's that expectations. Now, and this is when you used to lift. So if I looked at myself, how I used to be, I would be, at one point I was squatting stupid weights and deadlifting crazy stuff. It was ridiculous. And I come in now, and there's no way I could go anywhere near that. I'm talking 200 kg plus for those sort of lifts. There's no way. I'm doing 10, 20, let's be humble about it, 10, 20, 30, 40, 60 kg on the squat bar, on the Olympic bar. And that's where I'm at. But it's being that realistic to say, well, actually, this is who you are right now. So what's going to work me out right now, what's going to make me feel good without killing me and give me DOMs that I can't work for a month, is because I want to keep my exercises up. I don't want to kill myself. So I'm just going to start again. It's not, oh, well, I used to be this, so I can't be as strong now, or because I can't do that, I'm not a person who I used to be. I try not to think that way, and this is the coaching coming through of, okay, what do I need to do right now in my life? What's my workout? My workout's all about just getting back into lifting. So let's start at the beginning. And the way around it is, well, I don't have to focus on the weight, I'm just focusing on form, technique, movement, etc.
Managing your expectations. Being just being realistic.
From the heaviness to actually the posture, the movement, etc., etc.
That is a very logical way of explaining self-compassion.
But I wouldn't have done that 10 years ago. I'd have been back in the gym like one session and trying to rack the weights up because I'm trying to be a version of something I used to be. And it's like, that's going back to that. As a coach, when do you flip that mindset to? It's not the answer.
Just off the back of that, you know, there's another pandemic that we had. There's a silent pandemic right now that's across the board, across the world, and that's the pandemic of stress.
Yeah.
People doing too much, being so hyperproductive that it comes at the sacrifice of their own vitality. Where do you think that comes from?
Oh, there's probably a ton of better people to speak to about psychologists and stuff that'll talk about stress. But to me, what I know about stress is that, in my experience, again, this is talking about me and my experience of it. Most of it comes from ourselves. It's the expectations we put in ourselves. It's we sit down. It's we actually bring stress into our own environment. So again, going back to looking at having a coach and looking at pushing that vision out rather than pulling it back or looking inwards, is actually to look outwards again and say, okay, well, where's this coming from? To start analysing it and being smart about who you are, to pull yourself out into like a third person perspective when you feel something like that, to see what's driving these thoughts and feelings. Because there'll be something doing it. There's a stress coming, it'll be coming from somewhere. And when you sit back and step out of it and look back in and say, there it is, this is what's stressing me out right now. It might be a job, it might be a person at work, it might be whatever. But once you've identified it and it becomes something you can address, because it's a thing then, and it's not just you and thoughts and feelings and how am I going to do it. It must be something I'm doing or the way I'm feeling. So it's identifying the things in your life that are bringing that stress in, and then looking at how you can change it, or do you need help to change it, or no, what is it you need to address the problem or get around it, rather than just sitting in that space. Because what we do know with that is the more stress and pressure, it's a spiral down. It's tough. It can drag you down rather than get you out.
100%.
And again, someone else to speak to and share these experiences is vital.
What stresses you out and how do you manage it?
It's a great question. I sat the other night and I keep going through this evolution of who you are, right? Because what stressed me out actually coming back here has been the world. And Jess, she'll be testament to this when she hears it and sees it, because she'll see I'm just, because I'll do the opposite. I'll go into this hating everything because I see so much hate and craziness in life that it freaks me out that I'm not making a difference. If that makes sense.
Very interesting, yes.
So when you see the world in such a mess, and I really do think it's probably its worst mess it's ever been in for a while, but I can see why, because it's then stepping out and say, okay, well, why is it like the way it is? And actually, you know what, we've only got ourselves to blame, i.e. society has taken this to this space, because I do believe, again, Jess will be chuckling at this, those socialist and different types of viewpoints coming through. I absolutely believe that our values are wrong as a global community, as a global human beings, as a race. Our values are wrong. We're focused on, when we talk about wealth and health, we talk about money and bank account. No, we talk about how healthy is your bank account, how wealthy are you, as in how much money do you have in the bank, or how many cars have you got in the drive, or how many houses do you own. And that's never going to work, because we're seeing it more than ever now that the top 1% in the world who are pulling in more and more money, and then you've got this bottom huge piece of the population who's going in the opposite direction, and that stresses me out. Not that I want to be the top 1%, but I care for the bottom percentage. That there's how can we live in a life? And I had this debate when it came up, because we had the whole Black Lives Matter thing came up, and we had all lives matter. Now, my controversial look at that is Black Lives Matter it was happening, it was there, so it needed to be addressed. So this is going on. We're not talking about something that's not happening, right? This is actually happening. That's why it had kind of front picture or front page.
Yes.
But I didn't get that but people were going, but all lives matter. Well, they don't. All lives don't matter. And that's our society. And nobody can argue that all lives matter. All lives should matter, I get it. If someone says, yeah, but all lives should matter, yeah, I agree with that statement.
Yeah.
But all lives don't matter, because we know for certain that there's people around this world who are dying because they can't get access to clean water or health or nutrition or whatever it might be. So how can we honestly sit down and say all lives matter when there are people dying for just basic human needs and rights that they should have? All lives should matter, but as a society, as a global society right now, that's not who we are as a human race. Now when that changes, then I'll eat my words and I'll go back and say, yeah, you're right, all lives do matter. But until that changes, that's my point. But you can see I'm getting on my high horse, man. But
I get what you mean.
Because it's like, you'd feel, how can I influence that?
Yeah, and being in the US for so long and working with such a bunch, and this is the other thing, as I say, the humbleness that I've had to jump around the world and work with so many different people and so many different teams with so many different culture backgrounds and languages. there's what you've maybe not got the opportunity to see. What I have absolutely seen is that there's an innate human connection that brings us all together. There's a strength there about care and giving. It doesn't matter where you come from or who you are or what language you speak or what culture is bringing you up. There is a definite underpinning of people that care for people across all cultures.
Yeah.
And I see that, and I've worked with so many awesome people in the US. But then I look at the US because I feel like I've paid my taxes over there. I've been there for a while, so I can pitch in and have my say. I've paid for it, right? That's how the US runs. You pay for it, you're allowed to say. It's wrong, right? So we need to change that stuff. But it's just not right. To see the division that's going on in there at the moment, and to see the hurt and the pain and the anger that's going through that whole. It could be such an awesome country with an awesome community, but it's so divided right now. That hurts. That really hurts someone like me because it's the complete opposite of what you're trying to achieve in life by empowering people and teams to be their best.
Yeah.
And the sad thing, and it really annoys me, and this is in leadership in general across the world, is that when you try to lead by sowing fear and insecurity into society, that just gets on my nerves. That's the bit that really drives me nuts. And I see that throughout the world. Is it just poor leadership that tries to lead on fear and insecurity?
Yeah.
Rather than empowering and bringing people together.
I really want to stay on this topic, and I'm taking a seat right now of trying to learn and understand, because I have friend groups who also are in that space where they get upset and stressed by the things that are happening all around the world. And my contribution to it is, well, by doing that, you're adding more load to your backpack in life that you can't do what can you do about that? You're adding more stress into your backpack, and you're dragging yourself along on things that you cannot control. I'm not saying that I don't condone anything that's happening around the world. I feel for those people that you've mentioned, but also at the same time, my impact doesn't reach that far. And if I'm going to be stressed out at that, then that's a lot of suffering for me.
Yeah.
So how, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what is the balance there?
Because I'm going to agree with you and disagree with you.
Please.
I had this. Everybody, or not everybody, but you'll all have heard of Sasha, right? Sasha's one of my good friends as well, and she's been around the world and doing stuff with Les Mills. And we had a wee conversation, which I'll jump onto when I first came over here. You need to the realization is, where is the stress coming from? So to me, it's that, okay, that's a huge amount of stress in my life. What's happening in life? Because then I now ask myself exactly that question. Well, what can you do about it? Well, actually nothing. Well, why am I stressing about it then? So I need to step away and say, oh, okay, I know why I'm feeling maybe anxious and stressed and whatever it might be, pressure, because I'm seeing this on my news feeds coming in. I'm seeing it on my Insta posts. I'm seeing, because it's there, right? Social media, the world has never been smaller. And everything I do on the internet, it will come back at me tenfold, because there's Google's and YouTube's, right? It's going to send me what I think I want to see. So I'll get fed more and more of this stuff. So you've got to watch not to get drawn into that, because it's just feeding that pressure and stress. But once you recognise it, you can then go, oh, well, what am I doing? So as a coach, that's having that, I guess, intention of, I realise that as alarm bells going off, I now had to step back and look at it. Not to say that it didn't affect me, absolutely affected me. And probably Jess has had a terrible time. And, there's stuff going on in life, personal life, that you think, okay, I could have probably showed up better that day or that week or whatever it might be, right? But it's not, you can't do that. You can't look back and say, well, it could have been better. So how does the future become better? So it's identifying where's the stress coming from. And then looking at, so two ways I'm going to challenge you here on that little one was, you're right, there's nothing we can do about it. But there isn't. So what can I do about it? So that's the second question. There's nothing that I can do about it. There's nothing I can do about the global problems or issues I've just talked about. Yeah. But what can I do in my community that leans into that space? Because go back to Sasha and I had this conversation of, because what was the option? Oh, well, I'll just throw the towel and say, well, that's it. If I can't change anything, I'm stepping out of this and I'm just going to do this.
Yeah, and that's not what I mean.
Because if we all did that, man, the world would be much
it would be chaotic. Yeah.
So what can we do? So it's like, okay, well, what can I do in my world, in my community, with the people that I know?
Agree.
To hopefully change this long term.
Yes.
Because we've got to keep doing what we do. And I think that's the answer. And then, because then when you step away, because that's that changing in motivation, right? I've had this negative motivator, stress, pressure from what's going on around the world, thoughts, feelings, human race, humanity, etc. Nothing I can do about it. Okay, step over here. Now put my energy into something positive.
Yeah. And that's a great counterbalance, because you show up for the values that you cannot do globally, but you can do in your proximity.
And it makes a difference.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
As you always say.
Absolutely. And it's great to really hyper focus on your proximity.
What can you do?
Yeah. What can you do?
'cause
Otherwise, you can just drag your feet across. And I've had friends.
It gets you down, man. Right?
Get you down. Yeah, I've had friends who've not been able to sleep based on what's happening around the world and not been able to show up to their jobs and to their friends.
And it's still going on. You know, you have a look at Jess's brothers, and he's been in Sydney, couldn't get back to here, and it's only a hop, skip, and a jump away, really. It's still going on. It's still affecting people and families and lives and stuff. Fiji, man, Fiji's having a really terrible time of it right now. You know, and so your thoughts and your care goes out for these communities and these people. But same thing. What can you really do about it? Well, probably very little. You know, other than again focus on
scaling it down to what's in front. Yeah.
And that's, I know it's simple as well, but when it turns around, when the government here says wear a mask, it's like, okay, well, that's my contribution to it, because if that stops what's going on over here or helps Jesse's brother come back a week quicker or whatever it might be, I'm going to do that. Yeah. It's not about infringing on my rights or my freedoms and stuff. It's like, if that helps someone else, then that's just who I am. I'm going to step in because that's me doing what I can do then to contribute to this bigger picture, rather than stressing that it is what it is.
Yeah.
Quickly.
You're good. I fully understand that.
Yeah.
I fully understand that.
We had a couple of, when we put out questions to our community, if anyone had any questions for Mr. Dave Kyle, one of them was, how do you maintain such a positive outlook day to day? I guess we've kind of...
I don't. I don't, right? Because it sounds like, probably even now, it sounds like I'm super positive about things. But we all get... The reality here is, if I can put it this way, life is life, and we need to realise that it's life. So the world doesn't happen to us. So I try not to get stressed out about what's happening in my life, and it's not as easy as that. I get depressed, I get stressed. Like I just admitted, I've had this last 12, 18 months. It's been a hard time, but I'm still here, and we're still pushing on, and we're still trying to make things change. We're still having good fun. We're still looking like we've got great energy, but that's not always the case. But what we have to then, or helps me get through it, is, I guess, I need to just keep reminding myself, it's not happening to me. It's just life. Well, there's going to be heartache and pain as well as fun days and happiness.
Yeah.
Now, if I look at the lowest point in my life, and I guess it's just personal stuff again, my lowest point, even to date, has been when I lost my mum, right? She was quite young, and we lost her through cancer way back. And that's still in my life so far. Not to say that it can't get worse, that's what I mean, it's life is life, but it's that realisation of life is life. That was the worst day of my life, right? So therefore, I need to identify that and say, okay, well, that's going to happen to us all at some point. It wasn't just me, it wasn't just Dave losing his mum. It's like, okay, we've all done that, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people looking in around the world, or your global impact that you're having with your podcasting, right? People will get that. We'll all have done that. But if you haven't, it's almost that interaction of love and loss, right? If you haven't lost, then you've not really loved. And if you haven't loved, then you don't feel the pain of loss.
Duality.
And you have to have what's the yin and yang. There's all these tales, and these, we called it in Scotland, like your old grandmother's tales, right? There's substance to that stuff. And that's that negative and positive. It has to go hand in hand. And we just need to realise that that's life. Things is going to come along. And as long as we know that, as long as we're true with ourselves to say, well, hurt's going to come, pain's going to come, but so's tomorrow. And I go back to the coaching side to pull it back again. If I've got a real clear focus and real clear goals, then I've got that vision. And as long as I've got that vision, there's going to be a worthwhile tomorrow. Purpose, meaning, etc.
And one more was, what is a practical tip to take one's teaching to the next level? From an instructor, obviously.
Love it, yeah, because I'm saying, and actually this is something we're working on as a GFI team, right? And I'm having these conversations with all the GFIs here at Britomart, is stop worrying about the crossing the T's and dotting the I's. You know, once you've been through your training, your initial training, you've got your stuff, just practice it. Learn your trade, because you get to know your trade, right? Learn it. But then stop worrying about it. So what you need to do is you've got to show up as yourself. So we're back to the self.
Yes.
So who are you as a person? i.e. what? Marwin teaches sprint, right? Packs his classes. right? And it's not just because he's got good times in the timetable. He packs his classes. So what is it? Because all he's doing is delivering the same sprint class as anyone else that's doing sprint. It's the same workouts, it's the same bikes, it's the same environment, it's the same music, you've got access to the same materials, etc., etc. So why is someone's class is packed and someone's isn't? And that's not always, as I say, a time slot, right? But absolutely what it is personality. So what we're saying is that, yes, Les Mills, programming, all the stuff we do is amazing, but the magic is in the instructor. And that magic comes when you find you. So who are you? What drives you? What's your connection with the music, with the moment, with the people in the room? Where's the authenticity? And now this is nice because it links back to what I was just talking about. What you need to do, and here's the hard piece if anybody's interested, is you've got to be able to be a little bit vulnerable. Because when we talk about emotion, you've got to let that emotion show. And that emotion is driven through experience. Emotion comes through experience, right? And the emotion and the experiential links are really tight. So when there's a piece of music, when there's a feeling in the room, you've got to go there. Because then you will show up as you. And people will see you. And guess what? It doesn't matter. Body pump, sprint, whatever it might be, it doesn't matter anymore because it's not what I'm connecting with. I'm connecting with this person on the stage. And there's a real life, emotional relationship connection that's way, way more powerful because I'm back to here now, right? I've now made a mental and a mindful connection rather than just a physical connection. Awesome. So know yourself, work on yourself, and just the rest will happen.
Awesome. Let's leave it at that. What a mic drop right there. Thank you so much. That was such a good talk. Some beautiful insights on the human behind the GFM and the coach, Dave Kyle. Thank you for your vulnerability, wisdom, and time. This is going to be super valuable for our listeners and just for us too. So really appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
See you later, guys.